Okay, season's here. Looking forward to the trip down to Gainesville. Be a great opportunity for our football team. Florida is a really talented team. Got a lot of really good players, fast, athletic. Be a big challenge for us. It's going to take our best effort to go down and try to get the win. Quarterback's outstanding. I know there's not a big body of work, but some people are projecting him as a top 10 pick this coming draft, and so he's obviously got a ton of ability. Big kid, 6'4", 240 pounds, and really fast. So he's going to be a handful for us. But our guys have worked hard through fall camp. Even back, starting at the beginning of the year, back in January, it's been solid work ethic all through the phases. Came out of fall camp really healthy, which is a big plus. We didn't have much live work in fall camp relative to other years. It was a lot like 2019 when we had a very veteran team coming in where we didn't do a lot of live work, and that was the same approach this year. And consequently, we came out in good shape. So we'll find out where we are 7 p.m. on Saturday evening. Questions?
What did Bryson do ultimately that led you to pick him for this game over JJ?
Just has better command of the offense, fewer mistakes. JJ still, we believe in JJ. He's still got a lot of football ahead of him, and certainly is a tremendous athlete and able to really, is a true dual threat. But right now, Bryson Barnes, we feel, is the best solution if something were to happen to Cam, just based on total body of work through spring and fall camp.
You have a nice recruiting pipeline that you've developed in Florida over the last few years. Was that kind of a consideration in scheduling a series like this with Florida to give those guys a chance to go home and play in front of their family?
Yeah, that played a part in it, and we've had through the years, some years more than others, athletes from Florida, but have had as many as I believe 10 or 12 from Florida on the roster at any one time. I don't think we have quite that many now. Jordy, do you know how many we have? 5. So 5, but it's in our footprint, and we'll continue to recruit that area. I've had a lot of success with those guys. Zach Moss, Tyler Huntley. There's some guys that have really been major contributors for us, and so the answer is yes. That made sense for the series. One of the reasons was the recruiting footprint.
With the running backs, are you planning? Tavion's obviously established himself as a lead type back, but are you seeing with the talent in the room that maybe that's still shuffled a lot in the sense of who you play?
Yeah, everyone will have their role. I don't think it's necessarily who we play, but just the game plan that particular week, what fits, the strengths of the different backs. Each one brings something different to the table, and they're all going to play. You'll see them all.
You played in some hostile environments before, but SEC territory, the Swamp, what are you expecting?
Yeah, this may be the most hostile. It's the first game of the year, night game, new coaching staff, a lot of excitement. We're sure that place is going to be very, very loud and difficult to play in. We've taken, every measure that we can to try to replicate that, both noise-wise, temperature-wise, and so we'll see what happens. But we expect to, and they're right on top of you there. I don't know if you've ever been to the Swamp, but they're right on top of you, and it's very, the crowd is a big factor in games in the Swamp.
When you have a new staff like that from one institution to another program, do you find that they keep the schemes the same as the prior place, or do they change relative to the talent that they have now?
I think, generally speaking, you're going to see a lot of the same schematics that they came from, from the place they came from prior. Obviously, you got to tailor those to your new personnel and play to the strengths there. But as far as just the basics, X and O's, offense, defense, and special teams, all 3 coordinators came with them to Gainesville, made the transition there. So we're putting a lot of stock in what they did at Louisiana Lafayette last year. The same concepts, a lot of the same concepts showing up. But in any opener, there's so many unknowns that you got to be ready for everything, and you got to be able to have in-game adjustments early on. You can't wait till halftime, and so you got to be able to adjust in-game if you're seeing different things than what you anticipated.
You've opened up sometimes against an FCS team or not quite as big name opponent as you are now. Having a veteran-laden team, how does that help going into a big-time game right off the bat?
Well, having a lot of guys returning always is a big help, and in particular when you got an opener like we have this year. This game has got their attention from ever since we started in January when we came back from the Rose Bowl and started school. It's been certainly something that they're aware of and been focused on, and that's one of the positives of playing a game like this is you don't have to worry about getting them focused and working hard in the weight room and all that because they understand the big challenge ahead.
In terms of being ready for anything, I'm curious. Obviously, you're going to Florida. Is there some sort of contingency plan in case of there's a lightning delay and you guys are sitting around for 2 hours or whatever?
Well, we've been through those before, not a ton of them, but we have we do have a protocol, I guess you could say, to handle that. And somebody said there's a cyclone developing off the coast of Florida. I don't know if that was just baloney or what. I kind of banged around the internet and looked. I couldn't see anything, but anyways, yeah. You control what you can control. Obviously, you can't control the weather, but we'll be ready in case that does happen with the routine and the nutritional aspect of it, and how you handle that in the event it does happen.
In the punting and kickoff returns, it says you have Mackay and Devon filling those. What kind of led you to them, and what are you seeing from that group?
Well, first of all, in the punt return, Devon does a great job catching the ball, and that's really job one. And if you can't catch the ball, you're not really in consideration for returning punts. And so, not that he's the only guy that we have that can catch him, but he catches it the best. He's also got explosiveness to him. He's fast, and he's a good open field runner. And so that led to that decision. Mackay Bernard, just a tremendous athlete, great speed, and just seemed to be the best fit for the kickoff returns. And big shoes to fill. I mean, Britton Covey was as good as there was in the country, and so big shoes for those two guys to fill. But right now they're the ones that are scheduled to do that.
What's the biggest difference between this year's team and last year's team? Obviously, different faces in certain positions, but
Yeah, I would say there's more similarities than differences. But as far as differences, Britt Covey is probably, Britt gave us so much last year, and particularly in the red zone, and particularly on third down in the red zone. He converted so many situations for us down there. So we got to find somebody to pick up the slack there. Defensively, we had Devin Lloyd as our undisputed leader. We're more leadership by committee this year. There isn't really one guy that, like Cam is the leader of the leaders on offense for the whole team, for that matter. But on defense, we have half a dozen or so guys that have assumed that role. But like I said, there's far more similarities than differences.
You can't control the weather, but you can control your game plan in the event of high winds or rain. Do you have two separate game plans in case there are?
Not really, but obviously you would lean on the run game more in inclement weather, and that's something that is no secret to anybody. I mean, everybody does the same thing. But as far as two distinct separate game plans, no. I think you just lean on one facet more than the other, depending on what the weather brings.
With so many returners that you have, you would think that the opposition would have so much film on your team. Does that cause you maybe to throw in a couple of things that they haven't seen?
Absolutely, and that's not only this year. That's every year. You have, and like I said, there's a lot of unknowns and uncertainties in an opener because for that reason exactly is that the team, even though if you have no turnover on the coaching staff, you're constantly evolving and adding things to your scheme, playing to the strengths of the guys you got coming back. So yeah, there'll be some new wrinkles for sure.
you mentioned
Tell
their
us what
QB.
they are.
Not right now. Yeah, not right now.
You mentioned their quarterback. How much does his ability change the way you scheme, or do you just tell the guys to be more assigned?
It changes a lot because you got to account for the QB run game essentially every single down. I mean, the guy reportedly has 4.3 speed. I mean, that size, that's incredible. It's Cam Newton-ish, type of numbers with his physical stature and his ability to run. And so that's something that Coach Scally and the D staff are well aware of, and that's got to be taken into account in virtually everything you do.
You make that comparison. Do you watch what other people do against Cam Newton type talent and replicate?
Well, it's just we've had dual threat's a dual threat, and you got to be able to have your schemes and your spies and that type of thing in place every week that you face a true dual threat. And this guy's a dual threat in every sense of the word. He's got a big arm. He's got a live arm. Throws. He can make every throw, and so you truly have to be able to defend everything when he's a quarterback.
With somebody like Nate Johnson on scout team, does that help you in that scenario?
It does, and Nate's done a great job as our scout quarterback. He's taken the vast majority of the reps as the scout team guy, and Brandon Rose has also supplemented those reps. But Nate's the guy that gives us a very realistic look. Although Nate doesn't have the size this guy has, he certainly has the speed.
Just to follow that up, do you intend to redshirt Nate, or might there be some sort of small role?
We'll see. To be determined. With 4 games, still the current rule where you can play in 4 games before you cross that threshold. We'll see how things develop and how things progress. And he's a guy that we have a lot of belief in and think that he's got a bright future. But that question wouldn't be answered until mid-season at the earliest.
Can you give us a peek inside the running back room, and obviously the logjam we see of the depth chart? A lot of guys returning. Just how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, well, Tavion obviously is the guy that returns with the most production, over 1,000 yards and 20-plus touchdowns. So he's a guy that is most likely to get the majority of the carries. Not guaranteed, but most likely. Mekhi Bernard's skill set is outstanding. Catching the ball out of the backfield is something he does exceptionally well. He catches the ball as well as any receiver that we have. He's that talented. Jalen Glover, very talented, true freshman, does he's got his things that he brings to the table. Does a great job with the inside zone run game. Very shifty, really good instincts, vision. Chris Curry's a bigger back, 220 pounds, a lot like Tavion, and more of a tackle-to-tackle guy, exceptionally good at picking up blitzes and that type of thing. So everybody brings something different. But if you're going to say who is most likely to get the most carries, it would be Tavion.
Is Mekhi a guy you see using maybe in different situations on the field as well, maybe outside of the backfield?
Possibly, yeah, but all on offense. He won't play any defense. Yeah, he'll be lining up in a few different locations.
When this game was originally scheduled, Dan Mullen was the head coach there. Can you talk about your relationship with him?
Yeah, I got a good relationship with Dan. Would consider him a friend. Excellent football coach. Obviously we were here together for the couple of years. What was it, 04, 05, 03, 04, and kept in touch with Dan through the years, and got a lot of respect for him. And he's going to get an opportunity to be a head coach again. I'm positive of that, very certain of that, and that'll be at some point in the future.
How about Billy Napier? Last time we saw him was as the OC of Arizona State.
Right.
Here.
That's right.
What's your impression of him?
Outstanding young coach, a lot of energy, and they beat us that year, I think, pretty handily. It was 30 to 10, yeah. So it was they took it to us, and he's got a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Just schematically on offense, he's very innovative. He does a good job with that, and very tough to defend.
What is the Gators' best position group when you look at them on film?
Tough to say. I mean, they got. I don't know if there's any real glaring weakness. They've got first of all, the receiving core is really big. I mean, they're 6'5", 6'4", 6'3", almost across the board. Every single one of them. They had the 6-footer and the Pearsall kid, but he's out apparently. But they got a big receiving core. Running back, of course, they have the transfer that came with them from Lafayette. D-line, they got some really good D-line, but I don't know if you can say which is the most talented group, because they're all very talented.
With so many guys coming back on offense, what's your confidence level in the offense kind of hitting the ground running for game one?
Well, we need them to. That's got to happen, and they've executed very well ever since spring. This is what, the fourth year under Andy's scheme, and so everyone in the program, that's been here. There's a couple new guys, but the vast majority have been through it for 4 years now, and it's like just not new learning. It's just getting better at what we're already doing. So we expect to be very effective on offense. We got a good O-line. We got as good a tandem of tight ends as anyone in the country. Good stable of backs and wide receivers. As I mentioned earlier on in fall camp, that's really going to be the key if we can get more explosive plays generated on the outside.
Knowing that offensive line can sometimes take a while to gel, last year it took a few games. What are you seeing from this group that gives you confidence going into this game? And do you have certain things that will allow you to maybe distance the noise to help that group?
Well, first of all, they've been playing together longer. We were able to come to the top 5 earlier this fall camp, and that was by design. We knew we needed that to happen so they could gel, I guess is the word you'd use, together, and they have. And we've got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football for us. Braden Daniels, Satawa, Laumea, Jaron Kump, even though he was banged up last year, the year before, he played a bunch of snaps for us. So we've got a lot of experience there. And so we just need those guys to be a cohesive, high-functioning unit from the get-go, and that's what we expect.
Mo Diabate's got some knowledge of this team. Does he share that with the coaching staff or with the other players?
A little bit. I mean, it's not like we sit there and put him in a room with a light in his face and grill him, but he's added some things and some, particularly personnel-wise about, particular player strengths, weaknesses, that type of thing. And so and that's all he can really add because, he's not familiar with any of the schemes they're running, but certainly with some of the strengths and weaknesses of existing personnel or returning personnel.
When you're preparing for a team with a first-year head coach, how much of your preparation is watching their personnel that they had last year, they have returning, and how much of it is watching the coaching staff that came in and where they were prior?
It's about a 50-50 split, and we do it exactly as you outlined, schematically. For obvious reasons, you watch where they were, and then to see the different skill sets of the players, you watch the guys that you're actually going to be facing. I mean, that's something that we've been through that before. I can't remember when the last time was. Maybe Michigan, 5-6 years ago, or 7, whenever that was. But yeah, we've been through that before, and that's the MO. Is you take the schematics from where the coaching staff came from, and particularly this time where there's so much, virtually the entire staff came, and then you look at the individual performances and the guys that you got to face based on their physical abilities.
Kyle, is the Ty and Aaron scholarship, is that a player vote and the coaches have some say? How does that?
Player vote, completely a player vote, and there really is no parameters other than guys, who do you think is the guy that should be representing, the spirit of those two players as far as the spirit of competition, the personalities, just everything they embodied and what they were about. Who is the person that you want to be that representative?
Did the players overwhelmingly pick JJ?
It was a fairly large margin, between him and the next one.
Kyle, how's your team handling the stage of this game? It's not only week 1, but also a marquee week 1 matchup is what they're calling it. How do your guys, they've played on big stages before, but start of the season, how are they handling it?
By all indications, very well. I don't think there's anybody that appears to be overwhelmed or it's just you go about your business, and as we've said, you control what you can control, and that's our preparation. And the fall camp has gone really well and good focus, concentration, and so I would say that by my judgment, they've handled it as well as they could have to this point.
We talked about the footprint and how Florida's in the Utah recruiting footprint. Obviously, the high preseason ranking and all the attention and all that stuff seems like it could help in recruiting. Is there a market that you feel like you can't get in, you can't yet? And is there a place where you want to get more traction, maybe wins like this? Or?
You talking just like geographically?
Yeah.
I think our footprint is pretty expansive right now, and from Florida all the way to California, and of course not every state in there, but between Florida, Texas, a little bit in Mississippi, Georgia, Louisiana, of course in-state, California. I mean, that's a pretty wide net that we're casting, and we feel that's probably about right for us. I don't think we have. Well, I know we don't have any plans to go into a bunch of areas that we're not in right now. I think we're in a good spot right now with what we got, and based on our brand and who we are.
Coach, you lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball. How would you assess your defensive unit specifically to that?
I would say up front, just going by position group, Junior Tafuna is the leader of that group. Him and Van Fillinger has played a lot of football for us, but a lot of, Tennessee Pututau has had an outstanding camp. The two young defensive ends, Jonah Ellis and Connor O'Toole, have really matured and become really good players for us. Linebackers, where we had the biggest turnover, we lost 2 really good ones in Nephi Sewell and obviously Devin Lloyd, but Mo Diabate and Coretti Reed, and then Lander Barton, Justin Medlock seem to, those are the four guys that have surfaced. The biggest difference is we're much more experienced in the secondary than we have in the last 2 years. 2 years ago we were painfully young, but you just, there's no excuses. You got to play no matter what year you are. But that same group has really, it's almost the same group from 2 years ago. They're just older and more experienced. That was it? You're pulling the plug? I was just getting going. Jordan. All right.
I mean, you can sit back down if you want.
Thanks, guys.